Arc Raider's second tech test has come to a close. I played the heck out of it and I couldn't be more excited for this game to release. Now as a gamer, I've mostly admired extraction shooters from the sidelines, occasionally dipping into a few rounds of Hunt Showdown, but not overly impressed with the more ganky PvP combat that generally associates an extraction game. But Arc Raiders could be the first one that I take more seriously, and I think a big part of the reason why I'm liking it so much is that it was originally conceived as a PvE co-op game, and thus the core experience was designed to be a lot of fun without relying on PvP, and it absolutely changes up the mood of the game and the enjoyment factor. And I really want to talk about that more in this video, but first I gotta give Embark some credit in their world crafting. The world of Arc Raiders is a masterfully rendered, post-apocalyptic, beautiful nightmare. It's kind of like Terminator meets The Running Man when it comes to the visual aesthetics. Giant robots scour the landscape for anything left alive, and you're running around with some retro clothing and gear, which is just fun visually. And the graphics are backed up by a studio that really knows how to cook. The game runs on Unreal Engine 5, and boy does it run. The performance is great, the visuals are stunning, and the stability is on par with a final release candidate as far as I can tell. No stuttering on my end, crashes, or any sort of performance issues the whole time through. Honestly, they could release the game as is, and I think it would get a solid reception, but it seems like Embark really want to take their time and get it right. Considering that this is Tech Test 2 and we still don't have an official release date, they're focused on dialing it in. Now, I think most people jumping into this game for the first time are going to notice just how incredibly visceral the experience is. The audio design in particular is top of its class. So many games drop the ball when it comes to ambient sounds and distance and directional audio, but Arc tells its story through audio as much as it does visuals. Alien-like beeps and alarms from the robots echo across the landscape. You'll be alerted to patrolling robots or ones that have spotted something in the distance, or if a falling drop pod is being pried open by another raider. Even the wind rushing through the trees and the river running by feels incredibly realistic, placing you firmly in an environment, never making you question its authenticity. Now, the story of this world is slowly revealed through missions and clues, but even after putting quite a few hours into it, I'm still not fully aware of why these Arc robots are roaming the world and where humanity ultimately stands in their fight for survival. Being relegated to these subterranean cities with raiders venturing to the surface for supplies. Is there a bigger battle plan to fight back against them, or are we all just scraping by and happy to exist for another day? I haven't figured out all the narrative plot points yet, but I'm really curious. They've sucked me in and I want to learn more about the world. Now, coming back to my relationship with extraction shooters, I tend to get frustrated by them. They rely so heavily on getting amazing loot or having to win a firefight to feel rewarding. And when that doesn't work out, the punishment often feels bigger than the potential reward, at least in my experience. But when I play Arc, I can be perfectly content to drop in, kill some robots, skulk around some buildings, load up my backpack with some decent loot, and extract. I don't have to run towards every gunshot I hear and plan the ultimate gank on an enemy. It's actually fun just exploring and looting, and there's so many crafting materials needed to progress your home base that even extracting with a backpack full of basic materials tends to be somewhat worthwhile. And you can tell that this world was designed to be really fun to explore and to avoid AI and maneuver around them, because originally this game was designed to be just fighting the AI, and so that part of it holds up incredibly well. If you want to avoid the PvP side of the game, it's still quite enjoyable. Now that said, the PvP combat is also quite fun and varied. Outdoor firefights can involve distant sniping wars where interiors tend to get dominated by shotguns and grenades. In fact, shotguns felt like they were really becoming the meta. If you can jump on somebody in CQC with a shotty, it's rare that they'll live long enough to form any sort of decent retaliation. When playing in parties, this can be mitigated a bit by strength in numbers gameplay, but going in solo shotguns can be absolutely devastating. And speaking of which, one of the rarely well-balanced elements of an extraction shooter is the solo versus duo versus trio gameplay. Most extraction games try to let you drop in solo and give you a good experience even if you're running into bigger teams than you, and in my opinion it rarely works out, or it's rarely well balanced. Ark, in my opinion, also hasn't really solved this issue, though I will say when I matchmake solo, I mostly ran into other solo players. So it appears that the matchmaking system is working pretty well, and for the most part trying to match you up against only other solos and throw in parties when needed. But if you do run into a team while you're playing solo, it is pretty challenging to win a 1v2 or a 1v3 due to your weapons' often limited magazine sizes, the slower time to kill for a lot of weapons. There's a huge amount of time needed to kill, reload, and recharge your health and shields. So a solo player just really won't have that much time to do that in between killing different targets. So parties just have a huge advantage against a single player. I'm also not sure if solo dropping gives you any sort of additional benefits. Games like Hunt Showdown can let solo players drop in with some pretty top tier abilities that aren't available to groups, like the ability to revive yourself after getting downed. And it might be interesting to see if Ark goes down a path where they try and make solo play a little bit more balanced against teams or something like that. Now, running with a team is an absolute blast. Both trios and duos played out great. I played many games with Matimio, exploring and ganking or getting ganked ourselves. The AI are amazingly fun to fight against. You will get used to fighting and killing the basic enemies, but what's cool about the basic enemies is they are very much designed to attract other players to your location or even other bots, and even a small fight against robots can escalate quickly into something much more serious. And the bigger AI are really where the game starts to take on a different feeling. The Queen, a massive spider robot which can rain down fire from across the map, is an absolutely wild concept. I've never seen a game AI that was so threatening from so far away. It's actually pretty awesome, and Ark Raiders posted a statistic saying that only 4 of these have been killed through the entire tech test or something like that. So the AI are quite challenging. I really enjoyed fighting this bison spider robot that has jump jets that lets it leap pretty far distances through the air. I've seen some clips of people having these things jump 300 meters towards them and landing on them. There's all kinds of wild mechanics in the AI that you just don't see in a lot of other games, let alone a game that's multiplayer with PvP and PvE all mixed together. They're really pushing the AI to the next level, and I think they're benefiting a lot from the fact that, again, this game was originally conceived to be a PvE only game. Now, normally I'm not a huge fan of third-person shooters for PvP combat. I think third-person can be really fun and enjoyable in PvE style games, but third-person allows for a lot of peeking around corners and over cover without having to expose yourself to an enemy, and this becomes a bit like wall hacks in PvP games. And while I normally don't like this, one thing that it benefits Ark is that it makes pushing an enemy who is aware of you extremely challenging. And this means that highly aggressive teams can't just push you in an open area or push down a corridor and absolutely gank you because they have stronger numbers, or they can just outskill you in a firefight. The second they step out from behind their cover, you can peek and take some perfectly accurate shots at them, giving them a huge disadvantage for pushing in a straight line without flanking. So the third-person perspective kind of gates some of that aggressive gameplay, which can be really nice for players who don't want a super sweaty extraction shooter. You can still play aggressively and hunt players, and you're definitely going to get ganked in this game, but it does force a lot of people to flank and try different tactics to close the distance to their enemies. So a smart defender can more often escape a bad situation, something that can be significantly more challenging in other extraction games. Now, some of the areas of Ark Raiders that doesn't quite feel dialed in, and hopefully this is something they can evolve and learn from the tech tests, are their key bindings, their user interface, and the current loot balance and pacing of looting gameplay. Ark is clearly designed with consoles in mind, as I think it's already got cross-platform play for the tech test, but some of the platform parity design becomes a detriment to PC players. The Q button opens up a context menu, and it's essentially a one-size-fits-all for all of your grenades, heal items, and any other gadgets you might need during a match or mid-combat. And sadly, this becomes a bit of a clumsy context menu, and I really didn't enjoy constantly trying to dial around to the item I needed in the middle of combat versus just being able to hit, like, say, a hotkey for a shield recharge or a bandage, which I would expect to be able to do in most other PC titles. I know that I can eventually get faster at the context menus, but it's clearly a system designed for consoles, and it just feels like a downgrade to a PC player that's used to having more input options. Now, after extracting, you'll get back to your home base where you can offload your loot, complete missions, and craft weapons and gear. The UI here is pretty clunky and annoying to navigate. Even after many hours of gameplay, I was still getting stuck and lost trying to figure out where to craft stuff, where to turn in my missions, and it just felt awkward and unnecessarily cumbersome. The Finals, Embark's first game, also struggled with a clunky UI, which has gotten better over time, but I think UI design, or rather menu design, is not their strong point, and it's showing up again in Ark Raiders. I just felt like a lot of my time was spent unnecessarily trying to find the right recipes and crafting locations and upgrade areas and all this stuff in between rounds, slowing down the pace of getting into another match. It wasn't a huge detriment, and again, like the context menu, I will get faster with it over time, but it is something that feels inferior to a lot of other games, just user interface layouts. Beyond that, the size of your backpack and the quantity of loot that you can carry in a match seems extremely limiting, especially for the amount of loot that you find on average, which is pretty high. It's pretty easy to max out your backpack and give you little reason to stick around in a match much longer. I found that when playing in a group especially, we would win a firefight against another group of players, loot everything they had, which would usually be a full bag, and then we just have to call it around and go find an extraction point instead of progressing towards the goal we may have set for ourselves at the start of a round. So many rounds started off with us going, hey, I've got a cool key to explore this tower on this map. Let's deploy here and go to the tower. And then we go, oh, look, there's a group of enemy players. Let's fight them. We'd kill them, take their loot, and then just go, oh, I guess we turn around and go back now, and we'd never get to our objective because it kind of became pointless. I even had a few solo matches where I'd spawn in and I'd immediately hear an extraction elevator being called nearby. I'd walk over, see a player getting ready to extract, gank them easily during the extraction process because it's pretty easy when they're dialed into a console. You shoot them in the back and you get an easy kill, take their loot, and then I would just extract immediately with a full bag, and it felt very cheesy and unfair. So I hope that there's a way they can reduce some of these instances in the gameplay where you can just immediately drop in and win a firefight against a player who's just played a whole round and is now extracting. Now, those are the lesser than aspects of Ark Raiders, and the fact that we're still in a tech test means that Embark are looking at all these factors and trying to make improvements, and what they've done with the Finals gives me a huge amount of confidence in their ability to improve this game. Something that I'm really curious to see more of is how they're planning to expand Ark Raiders. Currently, the maps that you drop into are really cool looking. They play differently, and I think they could get a lot of longevity out of this game by just expanding their map roster, expanding their enemy AIs, which are extremely fun to fight against, expanding the gear types, the round events. It seems like they've really set up this game to expand in a lot of fun ways. This game has definitely shot to the top of my hype list, and I will be eagerly waiting a release. I'd be curious to know if you guys got into the second tech test and what you think about it. Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed my coverage of Ark Raiders, give me a thumbs up, subscribe for more content like it, and up next, check out some live gameplay of me playing with Operator Drewski and Big Fry right here. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap, signing off.